Hey everybody, and welcome back to part number 2 in my 4-part video series of my top 50 favorite games of all time. Well, let's get right to it. I hope you enjoy. Alright, my number 40 favorite game of all time is Roll for the Galaxy. Literally one of the smelliest boxes you'll ever smell in your lifetime. If you do purchase this game, it's not you, it's not your neighbor, it's not what you cooked for dinner that stinks so bad. It is definitely the box. I don't know what they made this out of, if it's out of some different kind of cardboard that's not normal to mankind. I don't know, but this game does stink. But talking about its gameplay, it's completely opposite. It's completely opposite of stinking. This game is awesome. So you've got a player screen in front of each one of the players that hides your dice roll from the rest of the crew, from the rest of your opponents. And what you do with those dice are very unique. You've got this little player board in front of you with all these different actions on it. I believe 5 different actions. You've got like explore and produce and ship, and you can settle planets as an action, and you can develop technologies for another action. So that makes up the 5 different actions. And you've got those actions displayed behind your player screen. You roll out the dice. Each one of the dice have those different symbols on them. Depending on which color dice you have, they either have more or less of any one particular symbol on it. So that'll mitigate your chances of rolling those, or give you some goal to go toward different colored dice for what your strategy and core concept for what you're going after is. But you roll those out. You place one of those symbols on one of those actions as your main action, and the remainder of the symbols you place underneath the board, under that symbol in those columns. The reason why you do that, and the reason why I love Roll for the Galaxy, and I have not seen any game do it better, is that each player gets to choose their main action, which you will for sure do, but all those dice you had placed in the columns underneath the board, those are basically sub-actions that could trigger if you can guess or strategize with what your opponents are going to do. So if your opponents choose one of those actions as their main action, one of those actions that you put the dice underneath your board as their main action, you then get to do that action with those dice as well. So you can piggyback off of their decisions, you can combo off it, you can make a seemingly small turn into a large turn and do many things with that one turn. And the better you do that over your opponents, the better you'll end up in this game. This game says only 45 minutes, and that is about spot on. So you can pump out a very seemingly strategic, seemingly heavy on the surface style game in only 45 minutes, and that is what I love about this. An awesome game. That is my number 40, Roll for the Galaxy. My number 39 favorite game of all time is one of the ugliest, maybe I won't go that far, but one of the uglier games I have seen art-wise out of any game I've ever played. But if that doesn't turn you off enough to, or appall you enough to try this game, I would not let it fool you. The artwork is definitely not on par with the gameplay. You're drafting these different factions into your hand and playing them out to place them on the board in different regions to try to control areas. And let's just pull it out and tell you what and show you what I'm talking about. And that game is Ethnos. In my opinion, the artwork, the art direction, the board, the cards, everything looks stale and very monotonous. And it just, I don't know, just something that's very like wishy-washy. It's very washed out looking artwork. But if you look past that, it is a very solid, streamlined area control, area majority style game. You've got different cards with different factions laid out in a row, and on your turn you can either play all of one faction or all of one color, choosing a leader obviously out of the faction. The leader would be of that faction. But if you play all of the same color card out of your hand, you choose a leader of what faction you want to be triggered. So the leader, or the faction you choose to be your leader, is your main special ability action that you trigger for that turn. The rest of the cards that weren't used in your hand from the ones you laid out go back to the drawing table for other players to gather. But basically it's real simple. You either take a card or you play out a faction from your hand, do that special ability, place a token on one of the zones on the board based on the color of your leader or of the faction you chose to play. Many different facets of victory, many different paths to victory in this game. Many different choices, and another easy, simple one to play. Either take a card or play cards from your hand. Two options, two simple options, but it really sings. Never gone wrong. Another one that's never really gone flat, maybe one time, but 99% of the time this game really sings. Plays in about 45 to 60 minutes, which is about spot on, and 2 to 6 players. I like how this game does go up to 6 and how it doesn't feel like you're playing with 6. It's one of those go-to games that if you have 6 people at your game night and you're not separated at different tables playing different games and you want to get everybody involved, there's not a whole lot of other games out there that play smoothly or quickly or at the same pace with fewer player counts as this one does at 6. Most other games are either 4 or maybe 5 players, but at 6 this one plays just as quick as if you had 3 or 4 players. So this is definitely one that I would recommend for those game groups that are at about 5 or 6 players and you're looking for that sweet spot that other games can't fulfill with area majority and area control, to have to do with more of a light-hearted card mechanism, either drawing or playing, but still gives you enough choices and meaty decisions for that area control itch. So that is Ethnos, my number 39. All right, and my number 38. My number 38 favorite game of all time is another grouping or pairing of games like I did earlier with Century Spice Road and Splendor, but this is a little bit closer of a brother and sister than those two games. It's actually under the same name, but just a variation. I actually don't own the variation. My parents actually own the variation of this game. The game I'll show you here is actually the first iteration of the game that came out. But they have the new updated, more of the second version of the game at their house, and that is saying a lot. Or they're not typical fans of board gaming, but they loved this one enough to go out and buy and try with their own group of friends, and that should be enough in itself to get you to want to try this game. But that game is another party game called The Resistance. Man, oh man, do I love this game. It has not ever gotten old. I swear, family gatherings or holiday events, we get together and we just yell at each other in this game. And this game is a lot of fun. It gets people into a lot of heated arguments, and I know that doesn't sound like too much fun, but wow, this one creates a lot of fun tension, a lot of table talk. I guess if you are a part of the Resistance, you have to succeed the mission. That is one of the rules in the game. But if you're a part of basically the spy group, you can choose to make the mission a success or a failure. So you have that option to kind of hide in the bushes and wait for the right time to strike. You might send, one person might send 2 or 3 people on that mission, and it might be all successes. So you think, great, everybody's a part of the Resistance here. They're on the good team. We're smooth sailing to victory. But one of those people, or more than one of those people in that group of 3, it could have been a spy, and they just succeeded the mission to throw you off. This just creates a whole lot of fun. I've played this game probably upwards of 500 times plus. I don't know. It seems like every gathering we play this at least around 40 times without looking at the clock, and eventually you look up and realize 4 hours have gone by. But it is that fun. Who's a part of the good team, who's on your team, who's a part of the spies, and trying to really analyze facial expressions and the way people are talking and lying to one another. If you like that sort of style, or you think you may like that sort of style of game, this is one of the first games I would run out to the store and buy and give this a shot. This was my gateway game to social deduction style party games, and it does not disappoint. That is my number 38, The Resistance. All right, my number 37 is actually a game I do not own. John from my play group, John from Talking Cardboard, actually owns this game, and every time I play this game, it has been with him. We've played it a couple times as a base game. We've played it once with the expansion, which drastically improves the game to much extent. But this game is basically, it has been known as the quintessential Star Wars in a box game. It is just oozing with Star Wars theme. Everything you do in it feels like you're playing your own iteration, version of a Star Wars movie, and that game is Star Wars Rebellion. So, like I said, Star Wars Rebellion really feels like you're playing through basically your own version of one of the Star Wars movies. It's got everything. It's got, you know, a bunch of different characters, and it's got different different parts from the different movies that you can really visualize in your head as you're playing it. But basically, one player takes on the role of the Empire, the other player takes on the role of the Rebellion, and the rebels randomly choose one of the planets out in the system as the planet that will have their base, the rebel base. And the whole point of the Empire is to try to kick their way into different planets and really rustle things up to try to find out where that rebel base is. As soon as they can find where that rebel base is and take down the rebellion units that are there, then the Empire wins. In the meanwhile, the rebellion are completing mission cards that basically move the token quicker to the Empire's doom. So you've got an Empire token, you've got a Rebellion token, and as those move closer to one another, if they touch, then the game ends. And you're doing ground battles, space battles, there's everything in here packed into one solid, very fun game. Like I said, we've played it with the expansion as well. It is a must-get expansion. You must get that expansion. It basically fixes the whole combat system, makes it more strategic, not just strictly tactical, but it gives some strategy cards that you can play face down before the fight takes place, and as you reveal them, that could really swing the battle in your favor or not in your favor, depending on what you chose to do before the battle even starts. It is a longer game. It's more on the 3 to 3.5 hour length, but given that, it almost needs to be that long in order to pour out that much theme in one experience. Anyway, that is Star Wars Rebellion. All right, my number 36. My number 36 is a Yahtzee style game. You say, what? Yahtzee? And everyone almost runs to the doors, but this is way better in my opinion, 10 times better than Yahtzee ever was to me. And has kind of a cool monster theme to it too, and that game is King of Tokyo. Designer Richard Garfield, most known for Magic the Gathering and the new game, the new trading card game that came out called Keyforge. But Richard Garfield has also done a couple great board games throughout the years as well. This is definitely one of them. In King of Tokyo, you take on the role of a monster, and you're rolling out dice. You get up to 2 re-rolls, and by then you have to keep your results. But you can choose which results to keep and which dice you don't want to keep, so you can re-roll that to try to trigger various things. But you've got different numbers on the dice, 1, 2, and 3. And if you get a set of 3 threes, for example, you'll get 3 victory points. A set of 3 ones would get you 1 victory point, sort of like in Yahtzee in a way. But you also have a claw on one side that you can attack other monsters with. You have a heart on another side that'll actually heal your monster. You've got an energy side as well, where you gather these energy cubes that you can purchase cards that'll give you different actions or different powers to help toward your goal. But anyway, lighthearted fun, very quick to play. Some player elimination, but doesn't last very long. If you're kicked out, another game starts right away. I do have a couple of the expansions. I have the first expansion, the Power Up, which adds some awesome character power ability cards to each character to make them feel really unique. In the base game, each character feels the same, looks the same, plays the same, but with the Power Up expansion, each character feels unique. It adds basically the mechanism. If you roll out 3 hearts, you can spend those hearts for a power-up card rather than spending them to heal your monster. If I ever were to make a top 10 necessary expansion list, power-up expansion for King of Tokyo would be on it. And then I also do have the King of Tokyo Halloween expansion, which adds a couple new characters, which is fun to play. Also some of the power-up, or the same power-up cards, but for these characters as well. So this is my mainstay Yahtzee killer in my collection that'll be in my collection forever. That is King of Tokyo. All right, and my number 35 game is actually another game that I do not personally own because John, a member of Talking Cardboard, like I said earlier during this video, he owns Star Wars Rebellion. He also owns this game, so he brings it to the table during our game sessions and we get plays in, and that game is Scythe. Scythe is a massive game. It has a massive board and you're doing multiple things on it. The one iffy thing I have on Scythe is basically the end game mechanism where you're going after these stars by doing different things throughout the game by either combat or these by some card play, some other things that you have to do or complete as missions throughout the game will earn you these different stars, and when you get enough of them, that triggers the end of the game. So it's a little bit of a race to the finish style game, and I typically don't like that very much, but the theme in this game is just so strong, the gameplay is just so strong, the mechanisms are strong as well, that it just really sung to me. So basically each player has their own faction board and another sideboard that adds some variability to the game. You take one of each and put them together, and those will dictate what actions and what your faction is good at doing. You're moving around the board. There's some neat player combat that you have. You're gathering resources and trying to complete these different goals throughout the game. Like I had stated just a second ago, to get the most glory throughout the land and win the game. But as of right now, it is my number 35 favorite game of all time, and definitely one to check out if you're into Euro strategy games with different end game goals that you are racing to complete before the other players can complete them. Like I said, my number 35, Scythe. All right, and my number 34. My number 34 game I actually used to own and don't longer own. And you ask, if I used to own it and sold it off, how great of a game could it be? It is a great game. The reason why I got rid of it is I actually got rid of it right away when I heard that a second version, basically a 2.0 version of the game is coming out soon, and that game is Eclipse. Eclipse is basically a 4X style game, explore, expansion, extermination, and exploitation. I think I got all 4 X's in there, but it's a 4X style game as said in the board game community, but more of a Euro version of the 4X style, where you are exploring different tiles in space to reveal these different planets that generate different resources on them. You are exploiting those planets for those resources. You're combating other players with your ships. The real cool thing about Eclipse that I fell in love with is that each one of your ships is completely customizable. You can buy upgrades for your ships and place them. As long as you have a slot on the ship that fits that upgrade onto it, your ships can be completely unique from all the other players' ships that you're playing the game with. No other game has done that better, in my opinion, than Eclipse, and I can't wait for the second edition of this game to come out, and yeah, that game is Eclipse. All right, my number 33 game is my favorite stock market style game that's on the market. It's just a great game altogether. It creates a lot of fun decisions. It's got some hidden information in the game where you know how some stocks are going to do. You have some foreshadowing going on, some insider hidden information that only you know. Some of the other players have their own insider information on how their stocks are going to do or on how those stocks are going to do. And you will actually bid on different piles of cards on based on that hidden information. So you'll know how some of the stocks are going to do, but you are unsure at some of how the other stocks are going to do. And how this game really sings, sorry, I forgot to even tell you what the game is. That game is Stockpile. So like I said, in the heart of this game, and what really sings about it is that bidding mechanism and the hidden information, that hidden insider information that you get some of it, your opponents get the rest of it. And just that back and forth bidding to get the best stock for the lowest price, and then, you know, buy low, sell high. This game is just the best stock market game on the market. If that sounds interesting to you, if you like bidding style games, if you like games with hidden information, and you don't mind the stock theme where you're looking to buy a stock low, sell it high, get the most amount of money by the end of the game, then this game is definitely for you. Don't let the whole stock thing throw you off either. If you don't know anything about stocks, or stocks don't really interest you, this is still a real fun bidding game with hidden information. Definitely family weight. Not for the young kids, but you know, as your kids get older, or as you're playing with groups of kids more of, I don't know, 10, 11, 12 years old, they can definitely grasp the idea of it, and definitely a good learning tool as well about stocks and just the general concept of how markets work and how markets fluctuate, and how you want to go about doing that to make the most money. Then this game is for you. That game is Stockpile. All right, and on to my number 32 favorite game of all time. We are really climbing the list now, getting into even some more exciting games here. All my games on my top 50 list are all great games, but they just keep getting more exciting, at least for me, to talk about. And that game here is Chimera Station. Actually, another game I don't hear a whole lot about, or I haven't heard a lot about for some time. It's a 2 to 4 player game, 60 to 90 minutes. So it's kind of that middleweight time length Euro style game. As you can kind of see with the trend of the games and the style of game I like, I do like my Euro games a lot, and this one does not disappoint. Another thing I like, as you've noticed, a general trend in this video for my top 50 games, is I really enjoy games with unique mechanisms, mechanisms I haven't necessarily seen before, or ones that do it better than a previous game. I really tend to gravitate that sort of thing. If the mechanism is unique, or if it's a real good mechanism, then I'll gravitate toward it and give it a fair shot and see if I like it. And this game definitely has one of those unique mechanisms. The unique mechanism in this game is you've actually got these different worker placement spots that you're going to, and some of them get you pieces of an alien, and they snap together basically as like Lego pieces. So as you get different pieces of alien body parts, you can actually snap them together. You basically pull the head and legs apart, and you place that new body piece. It's called splicing in the game. You splice that new piece into the middle, you put the head and the legs back on as kind of a sandwich, and that new piece that you just spliced onto your alien gives them a new power. You've got claws that'll actually bump other places off of other worker placement spots if they took the spot that you really needed, but in a previous turn you had spliced some claws onto your alien. You can then be a brute, and you can go and bump them off that spot and basically use your claws to throw them off and say, you know, I'm using this spot now. You've got some leaf hands that basically allow you to feed yourself. You can eat your hands, and that basically allows, like I said, allows you to feed that person. You don't have to worry about having the responsibility of feeding them at the end of the round. They're good for feeding themselves. You have a brain that'll do different smart things around the board, as you might guess from the whole brain thing, and that generally gets you more victory points on different spots. The more brains you have spliced onto your alien. And then there's another one that's tentacles, and if you have tentacles on your alien, that'll allow you to grab additional things from spots. If you can find this game, if you can get your hands on it, it's by Tasty Minstrel Games, so it's a great production. But if you can get your hands on it, definitely give it a shot. I've not seen any other game like it. Like I said, Chimera Station, give it a shot. And now on to my number 31 favorite game of all time, and luck has it, I don't have the box on me. I accidentally left it over at one of my brother's houses, and they're playing with some of my decks. If that doesn't give it away, it is a kind of a trading game style card game that I did mention earlier in this list, but one that I fell in love with right away. Fairly new game by Richard Garfield. Like I had said earlier, Richard Garfield was the designer of Magic the Gathering, and he designed a new game called Keyforge. So my number one, or not my number one, my number 31 game is Keyforge. Keyforge is extremely unique. When you look at trading card games or limited card games or the whole tournament card game format in general, this game does something unique to any other card game out there. Basically, you've got a pre-constructed deck that has a specific name on it that is unique to any other deck in the entire world. You've got the name on it and nobody else has it, and your deck is constructed of unique cards that no one else in the world has a combination of those cards either. So unlike in trading card games, you can't specifically buy individual cards or other booster packs to add to your deck, or to take some out and add and construct and make your deck better, and try to play around with your deck before you bring it to a tournament. It's not that style game. Just for 10 bucks, you actually go out and buy a pre-constructed deck, and it's tournament ready right away. You can't take out cards, you can't add cards to the deck. What you see is what you get. So unlike any other game, you're not strictly attacking monsters or attacking players to hurt them. There are a allotted number of points to get them down to 0 to win the game. Rather, you are gathering these amber tokens to forge these keys, and once you forge the 3, you win. The reason why there is fighting in this game and that you can choose to have your monsters fight the other opponent's monsters is they might be ramping up and might be building this huge engine that is getting them just a ton of amber every turn, and you need to slow them down. So you need to use what you have to fight them off, to maybe kill them off, to slow them down enough to where you can build yourself back up quicker than they can, to start gathering that amber faster to get to those 3 keys before they can get to those 3 keys. And that is the heart of the game. I could keep talking on and on for hours about Keyforge. It is just that fun. Very cheap barrier to entry, very cheap price point to get started, and that game is Keyforge. All right, and my number 30 favorite game of all time is, in some people's books, their number 1, or at least at the very least, maybe their top 5 or top 10 favorite games of all time. It is my number 30, which isn't saying much. 30 is still extremely high. I've played hundreds and hundreds of games over the last 10 or 11 years. That's about how long I've been in this hobby, and number 30 is nothing to scoff at. This is one of my go-to cooperative games. If you were to ask me, Cory, what can we sit down and play that is cooperative and a lot of fun, I would go to this game right away. It doesn't get old. It is just fun to play, and that game is, well, let me just show it to you. That game is Pandemic. Pandemic, my number 30, like I said, doesn't disappoint with the cooperative nature. Basically, you've got these different disease cards that are coming out that spreads diseases over various countries or different cities in these countries, and you take on the role of either a medic or let's see what else we have here, a quarantine specialist or a contingency planner. You've got these different roles that have different special abilities to best get rid of these diseases before they spread and eventually take over to the point where you lose the game. There are multiple ways to lose, 3 or 4 different ways to lose, and it is even harder to win. I actually don't think we've ever won this game. I've played this game upwards of 50 plus times. I would assume between my copy and other people's copy, I've got to have played over 50 times by now since I started playing games, and I have yet to win. We've gotten extremely close, which is the fun nature of it, but never a victory under our belt. Each player gets 4 actions on their turn, and the 4 actions are real limited. For example, just moving 1 spot is 1 action already, so moving and getting rid of those diseases is real tough to do, and real tiresome for the players, so you have to work as a team and cooperate to get to different zones to help help double team some of the diseases to get rid of them faster than some of the other diseases, and just really work as a team and wrap your head around what might be the best location to go to next before it spreads. I do have one of the expansions here as well. I have the In the Lab expansion, which is my favorite expansion. I did a bunch of research on all the other expansions, and this one really saying to me the most. It actually adds, like stated in the name, In the Lab, it adds a whole lab portion to the gameplay, where after you take diseases off the board, you can actually put them in petri dishes in the lab, and as they move through the lab and as you manipulate them, that can help eradicate some of the diseases. It'll give you basically another way to eradicate the disease than just the plain old base game, simpler way of doing it. So it gives you another option or another path to victory, which I really very much enjoy. So if you pick up the base game of Pandemic and fall in love with it, I highly recommend the In the Lab expansion. Doesn't add a whole ton of complexity to it, but gives you another path to victory, which is very fun. Yeah, and that's my number 30, Pandemic. But now we are finally into my 20s. This is my number 29 game. And yeah, let me just show you what it is, and then we'll talk a little bit about it here. And that is Azul. Critically acclaimed, one that is very hot right now, getting much buzz, much talk. You can find this game in Barnes & Noble, I believe Target, and many places. It is very mass-produced and very broad-reaching, fairly new game, but it's already come out with such a bang that most everybody, I believe, knows about it already. But this game is just awesome. I mean, just by the look of it alone, you might not think it would be as great of a game as what it is, but it's got a beautiful production. The tiles in it are very heavy and chunky tiles. The boards are very colorful and nice, and basically in Azul, you are building up, I believe it's like a mosaic wall of different tiles. And how that works is you've got these different markets, these little market circle tokens that are in the middle of the board with 4 different tiles on each one of them. And you can either take all of one kind of tile from one of the markets, or you can take all the tiles from the center. But after you take all of one kind of tile from one of the markets, the rest of those tiles that you did not take go to the middle. So the middle keeps building and building and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, eventually to where it might be so appealing to one of the players that they just take everything from the center. But the deal with that could be a negative is that if you can't place everything on your player board, the rest of it goes to the tile floor. And if you have to place tile on the flooring, everybody knows you don't want to do that because it gets stepped on and dirtied, and nobody cares about tile on the floor. They just care about the nice, beautiful, clean, fresh mosaic on the wall. So you get negative points if those tiles have to get placed on the floor. Win or lose, this game feels very satisfying, and you'll want to play it right away a second time to try to figure out what you did wrong, or what you could do a little bit better to get more points, or if you won or lost. It doesn't matter if you won or lost in this game. You'll just want to play it a second time just to either get better versus your opponents, or maybe best yourself and get a better score than what you got before because you felt like you could have done better. It's just one of those games. It's so much room for decision making in this game that is just fun, light, appealing, quick to play, and one that I would definitely, if I were you, give a try. It will not disappoint. My number 29, Azul. And on to my number 28. My number 28 game is one of my favorite deck building games of all time. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. But it's not that game. It's a different deck building game. Or maybe you did guess it right. I don't know. But the deck building game I'm talking about is Clank. Clank, like I said, one of my favorite deck building games of all time. In this game, like I said, it's deck building, so you start off with a deck of cards, and you've got other cards that come over that are in the market or in the buy row that you can buy to add to your deck to give you various actions. What's unique about this game is it actually comes with, it's not just a deck building with game with cards. It's actually a deck building game with a board that you have a figure that you're moving throughout this dungeon with a dragon in it, and it's got some theme built into that. So you've got different movement cards that have boots on it, that when you play it, it allows your figure to move throughout the dungeon. You are gathering these items for victory points and these different treasures, but you want to be careful not to create too much noise. There are some, you know, good cards or better cards that have clank on the card, and basically what clank does is when you play that card, you have to collect clank tokens to where when the dragon surfaces, whoever has the most clank, all the clank goes back into the bag, but whoever has the most clank in the bag has more of a chance of getting drawn and taking damage from the dragon. There's a little bit of a push of your luck. You want to get down to the depths to take those high point treasures, but you also want to make sure you get out of the depths so you are not eliminated, so you don't die from the dragon down there, and you get to keep your points. And if you're real lucky, and if you're and if you feel it's necessary to get that bonus 20 points, you really might want to push to buy more movement cards or faster movement cards to really try to get yourself out of the castle completely for those bonus points to win the game. Whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner, and really this one is a lot of fun. The mechanism they say is broken, I really don't believe is broken, but this, one of my favorite deck buildings of all time, definitely give it a shot. And this is Clank. I have one of the expansions here, actually the first expansion called Sunken Treasures, which adds a whole nother board, a double-sided board, and it's got some water-filled rooms and adds some different scuba gear and different ways and different mechanisms to do different things. Just adds some more goodness to the game, but definitely pick up the base game, give it a shot, see what you think. That game is Clank. Okay, so we are down to the last two games of the night tonight, and that is my number 27 favorite game of all time. My number 27 favorite game, I know I say this a lot, but it's another game that really surprised me that I wasn't really thinking too much of, but for the high praise it got and the positivity it got within the community from some of the reviews that I'd seen or what I had read about online about this game, I got more and more intrigued with it the more I heard about it. So I had to go out and get it, try it for myself. I hear it's a lot like Russian Railroads, which is a game I haven't played, but I believe that's okay. I mean, this game I guess will scratch that itch for me and be one that I keep in my collection for a very long time, if not forever. My number 27 game is called First Class. So First Class is another real simple game with a lot of meaty decisions. And I say that a whole lot, but that's what this game has, and I guess another Euro game too. There you have it. I guess for the non-Euro game fans out there, they might hate these videos that I'm producing here, but because the majority of them are going to be Euro games. But in First Class, you basically have 3 rows of cards, and it's a card drafting game. So you'll draft a card from the main stack and do that action after it's drafted. You've got these different cards that can build out a railroad track map that'll score you different actions and trigger different effects, and also give you more victory points as your train goes further and further down that track. You've got a board with money on it that can also trigger train movement. Some of the cards trigger train movement, and that can move your train along the track to trigger those effects and victory points. You also have these rail cards that you're looking to place out on your basically on your train, to build out your train, to upgrade it, to make it better. You can upgrade the different cars on your train for more victory points, and you actually have these 2 different trains that you're building out, each one with its own conductor. There are certain cards and different actions you can do to move those conductors along the train. The train car that the conductor ends up on, it triggers those victory points and all the previous cars that they have passed through, those victory points as well. So you're looking to get your conductors real far out on the train to trigger all those previous victory points from the one they're standing on all the way back to the front of the train. Real neat, real quick to play, a lot of fun, a lot of good decision making, some push your luck. If that sounds fun to you, if that push your luck and try to maximize your engine and draft cards, sounds appealing to you, definitely give First Class a look. It doesn't look too pretty on the box cover, but it is definitely pretty in the way it plays. So give it a look. That is First Class. My number 26 favorite game of all time. This game gets compared a lot to Terra Mystica and like Gaia Project. At the heart, it is the resource management that really sings in this game. Came out recently, one that I was interested in from the start. It just sounded like a game that would be right up my alley, something that I really enjoy playing, and that game is Clans of Caledonia. My number 26 favorite game, Clans of Caledonia. Very, very meaty and heavier than, I guess not as heavy as it may look to some people, but definitely heavier than I would say the majority of games out there. You've got your own player boards with different factories and different animals, and basically these different resources that you have to manage, hence the resource management style game. You're placing them out on the board with money, and money is very tight in this game. You can generate resources and sell them for money to then turn around and spend that money on different different resources to place on the board, and how you build them out really matters, because some plots of land are less money than other plots of land, and you're really trying to be as efficient as possible with your money because it is so tight. What's really cool in this game though is that you have some buildings that actually convert other resources into a better resource. So you've got like, let's say like milk can be converted into cheese, and what else is on here? You've got like wheat you can build like a bakery, so wheat can be converted into bread, and you've got these different resources that can essentially be upgraded, that are better than the other resources that are beneath it. But I haven't really seen any other game that does anything, any resource management like it, where they are upgradable. So you've got these different tiles that have different missions that trigger at the end of each round, that have these basically these base requirements that you need to score those victory points, along with the other generating resources that you have going on, and everything just kind of moves like an engine and moves along. And I guess one negative in this game would be one little minor mistake in your entire engine could really grind it all to a halt. But that is also what makes the game so great, that you have to be careful with each decision you make. You need to think very hard about your decision making in this game to really make it sing to its fullest. And it's kind of a point salad game too. So you get victory points for everything. It's point salad here and more salad of points here, and you're just grabbing at different points, and all the while making your core engine sing and work cohesively. And if you've got one hiccup or make one wrong move or one mistake, it'll really grind your engine down, and you need to try to recover to get your engine back going again. And there's just a whole lot of decision making to this game, and a whole lot that makes this game work. And with each consecutive play, you need to learn from your previous play to get better at it. It is definitely one of those strategy games that you need to learn from and get better at, and almost practice at to master. All right, everybody, and that wraps it up for my part number 2 in my 4-part video series, top 50 favorite games of all time. I know this video was a little bit lengthy, just like part number 1 in the series. I will be sure to try to speed that up through parts 3 and 4. For those of you who stuck through it with us, or with me rather, I really appreciate it. And if you have any comments, please leave them below. Let me know what you think of my list, or what you thought of my list. Again, thanks for sticking with me through this long video, and we'll see you next time.